Hi everyone, today we have a new video review, and as you can see, this time we are going to talk about fresh release from Miniart. It's a kit in 135 scale and it's a truck model, so it's a L701 German 3-ton truck, and as you can see, this time it comes as a medical truck, so it will be quite an interesting thing to review. I can see that there are more markings than what we see on the box art, but I guess this one will be the most colorful thanks to the huge red crosses, and the kit number is 35450. So what I have here on the table is the final shape of this release, and you will get exactly the same stuff if you order it, for example, from Modelimex. And of course, the box size is quite typical for this brand. Here is comparison with my hand. We have really nice box art. And here on the side you will find also some information about the manufacturer, while here you can also see some safety advices. And on the opposite side you can see the small sign of the cartograph. We also have the decals, and of course we have also the 5 marking options. So here you can see the side profiles so that you can understand what to expect here. And as you can see, there are also some military camouflages as well as this ambulance truck or medical truck. It's a top opening box. And here's what we have inside. All frames are sealed into one plastic bag, so I just need to cut through it and we will take a closer look together. But in the meantime, I can also remind you that you can help us with a small donation, and it's quite easy thing to do because we have the big red button on the website, and there is also the special donate button or join button on the YouTube. So in case you would like to do it through the YouTube, it still works, and even the small donation is quite important because it helps me to get some new equipment, maybe to update the whole setup or to make the purchase of some interesting kit which I won't be able to get otherwise. So here I will just remove a bit of the dust. On the top of the box there was the envelope with the Miniart logo. So as usual, this one is used for PE parts, and here we have something interesting because usually the PE threads from Miniart, they're wrapped into the film. As you can see, this one comes without the film. Not like it's a huge issue, but it's something what is worth noting. And as you can see here, we have the parts for internal and external features, which is quite cool because in 135 scale all these things are usually noticeable, so that's why it's better not to be lazy and apply all these items on your model as well. Next we have another plastic bag which I will have to counter, so just give me a second. Here we have the clear frame and decals, and in the meantime it's also worth reminding you that you can check the recent reviews of the recent releases from Miniart on the same channel which you are watching at the moment, because I'm usually checking them all and showing what is interesting, what is not, and why you should get one of those kits for your collection. So here we start with the clear frame, and as you can see, molding quality looks almost like a real glass, and I like that the attachment points are quite thin, so it should be easy to separate these parts. And as usual, I recommend to use the plastic saw because this way you will be able to carefully separate them without damaging or leaving any marks. Next we have the decals. So these ones are printed in cartograph. As you remember, we have these large red crosses. I guess this one will be for the bonnet. And I can also see that we have some minor decals for the interior. And of course we have some white signs here, which will be useful for some of the markings. And here you can take a closer look at the printing quality. It's cartograph, so there is nothing to worry about. It's just a matter of careful application, and you will be good to go with those decals on the model. And now it's time to start with the gray plastic sprues. So the first one is the Sprue C, and here you can see we have these tarp parts. Maybe I'll open the lenses even more so that you can see more details. And overall quality looks really decent. I don't have any complaints here, and all these wrinkles are quite convincing. It's just a matter of combining all these panels, because as far as I can understand, the rear cover will be assembled out of separate panels, and that's why it is important to get the smooth joint between them, because otherwise it will look unnatural. Next we continue with the Pioneer tools. So here the most interesting thing is that we have the tools with the clamps pre-molded and without the clamps. So I guess there will be choice whether you would like to have the version with the clamps pre-molded, which will be easier and faster to install, or with PE clamps, which are a bit more convincing in appearance, but they are also a bit more tricky to assemble. This is something what is worth admitting, let's say. Next, we continue with the Sprue DA. So here I will have to zoom out a bit, and you can see that these are the parts for the rear bed. We have the subframes, and there is no wooden texture on these wood panels. So in case you would like to replicate some weathering, it's up to you how you will do it. I saw some modelers actually successfully doing it with brush painting and also with acrylic paints, and some of them are actually doing it with scribing the panels in order to replicate the texture, but I'm not sure if it's worth it here. So the final decision, of course, is up to you. Next, we continue with the Sprue CD. So here are more panels for the rear section, and as you can see, these ones are also quite plain, so no wooden texture. But overall, I think it's a really nice quality. We have some structure elements pre-molded, so you don't have to install them separately and align them somehow. And they are nicely detailed from the both sides. So it's not like there are some plain parts because it's not visible on the finished model. Next, we continue with more parts for the rear section. I guess these are raised sidewalls. So there is nothing special. It's just a nice thing that they're molded at least as a single piece parts, so you won't have to deal with the separate bars. Next, we also have some parts for the suspension. So here we have the wheel axles and also some minor elements for the front cab. So I guess these are the seats parts. And as you can see, we even have the supports molded separately. So it's quite a nice attention to details. I hope that we have the separately molded doors, and this way it will be possible to show what is inside. Next, we continue with the Sprue MB. So here we have exactly what I was talking about, so I just need to zoom out a bit. And you can see that these are the tarpaulin sections. And of course you have to combine them somehow. And that's where it gets tricky, because even though here inside I can see even the designation where is the frontal section, but there are not that many guiding elements, obviously. And of course it's better to sand the joint sections, the joint areas, so that you get the smooth interlinking between those separate panels. It might take some time, but the final result should be quite convincing, I hope. Next, we also have the Sprue AB. So this one is dedicated to the wheel rims. And I guess the parts design hints that we have the separate wheel tires. As you can see, the wheel rims are quite nice. And here you can check them from the opposite side. Such design should also make it easier to paint them without any masks. So it's also quite a smart thing, and it will save you some time. Next, we have the tire parts or tire sprues. It's a Sprue AD. So it's good that those sprues are actually, or these parts are coming as the plastic parts, not as the vinyl or rubber. And of course such thing will look a bit more convincing, but as you can see there is no weight effect. But at least we have some details on the tire walls, which is also good. And here on the opposite side you can see we have the guiding elements, so it will be also quite nice because it will help you with alignment of these two halves. And I think as long as you plan to make these wheels in dirt and dust, so it should be enough. And in case you would like to replicate some weight effect, then you should go for 3D printed parts, because they will be a bit more sophisticated in this sense. Next, we continue with the Sprue, which is dedicated to the front grille and radiator, and also you can see here the oil pan. So all of those parts are quite nice. What is cool is that the front grilles are throughout, as you can see, so this is not a solid part and you don't have to do any additional modifications. It comes like this straight out of the box. Next, we have two sprues dedicated to jerry cans. So this is a Sprue FA, and as you can see, these plastic jerry cans are quite nice. As you remember, we had some PE parts to be combined with this, but this is not an issue. I think it's easy assembly anyway, and the final result is worth it, and you don't have to use all of the jerry cans, so some of them might stay in your spare parts box, and you can use it for the future builds, of course. Next, one more Sprue is for the various minor parts for the suspension. As far as you can see, some of these elements are very thin, so be careful while working with them. Here you can see comparison with my fingertips, so these parts are quite tender and they require due care, of course. Next, we also have the parts for the storage boxes. I'm just checking whether these are two identical sprues, and it looks like it. So here, as you can see, these boxes are molded as a single piece parts, and you just need to join these sections together. Obviously, it also takes away the possibility to open these boxes, to assemble them in open position, but I think that's not a huge issue. And of course, if you would like to do so, you can also do some scratch building as well. Next, we also have here the Sprue H. So I will place it here. Let's zoom out a bit. And now you can see that we have the view fenders. We also have the instrument panel here, the bonnet panels. And well, one piece bonnet panels kind of hint that it won't be possible to expose the engine, but we will see in the assembly manual. We also have the chassis bars, which are molded with the leaf springs. And here you can check those parts from the opposite side as well. So everything looks quite cool. What is notable also is that this dashboard, it has the details on the opposite side as well. So in case you plan to open the bonnet somehow, it won't be just a plain wall. And this is really nice attention to the details out of the box. So something worth noting. And for the, I'm not sure actually if it will be used for the version with the enclosed rear section, but as you can see here, we have this thin frames on which usually the tarpaulin is placed on. And as far as I remember, on the previous kits, manufacturer was not suggesting to use them, so let's see what will be in this one. Next, we also have this sprue with more parts for the engine bay. So again, everything is quite small, and well, 1/35 scale will bring you some fun because some of those parts will have to be installed with the tweezers actually. Next, we continue with the parts for the wheel axles, and here you can check them from the opposite side. Next, another big sprue with the parts for the front cap, and I just need to zoom out a bit. So here we have the, as far as you can see, separate doors. We also have the separate panels of the front, rear, and the sides. We also have the leaf springs. And separate doors, as I said before, are quite useful for displaying what is inside. And here you can see that we have the guidance tabs. So even though this is a quite straightforward design, there is also some clever engineering behind which will help you with alignment. And next one is the sprue for the engine parts. This is actually the last gray plastic sprue in this kit, and as you can see, the engine is included, so that's why I was saying that it's worth thinking on how to expose the engine on the finished vehicle, because it's quite a shame to hide such detailed power plant, and in 1/35 scale it might be also useful for some diorama ideas. It gives you a bit more freedom with choosing what you would like to replicate. Next, we have assembly manual. So here I'm closing the lenses so that you won't be blinded by the white cover of the pages. So this is a large color printed brochure. We don't have any history note here. So if you would like to learn more about this truck, feel free to Google it. And next we continue with the first marking guides for two marking options. So this truck comes from Italy 1944, another one from Netherlands autumn 1944, and both trucks are in this, I would say, classic colors. Next we continue with the parts map. So here is something to remember, that Miniart does not mark the unused parts, so be careful with this. And next we have the assembly process. So everything begins with the chassis bars and also rolled wheels, but this one will be used as the spare wheel, as you can see. And next we continue also by using some P parts to make the attachments. So it's quite an interesting design, especially considering that on the next page we are already working on the engine and also the wheel axles getting assembled. Next we continue with assembly of the radiator and also the front bulkhead and the floor panel for the front cap. I'm just looking that will be this open let's say section which is covered with the seat parts. Then we install the bulkhead. You can also install this horseshoe on the front grille if you would like to. This is optional, so up to you. And this is really nice touch that you have such minor things to differentiate your truck. Then we continue with more panels of the truck. And here I'm not seeing the option to open the doors. As you can see, they're shown as assembled in the closed position, but obviously you can do the open position because you have here them as the separate parts. The same can be possibly said about the engine panels. I can see that they're getting installed. And yeah, even manufacturer is mentioning that you can open them, and as you can see, the locks are replicated with P parts, which is quite a lot of small parts work, so be ready for this. Next, we continue with the rear bed. So here again, we combine the separate panels and bars together, and there are a lot of P parts. I would say surprisingly a lot of them, so be ready for this. It might be a bit tricky for beginners, so definitely not a right choice for those who would like to treat it as their first kit. Here we also have the option for the version with the canvas, and you can also assemble it in the open or closed position, which is also quite cool. And here you can see also the open or closed canvas, so removed or the one in the place. Here we continue with two more trucks. The one from the box art, it's Italy Spring 1945, another one Germany Spring 1945, and one more here, it's Prague, and as you can see, Spring 1945. Why I'm a bit slow, I'm just reading that it's written here Praga. I'm not sure why it's written like this, because it should be slightly different, but maybe it's just a small typo. So as for the whole kit, it should be already available, and of course I will be happy to hear your opinion, so write it here in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video review as usual. Thank you for joining me today, and bye.